He can speak much more passionately perhaps about this. The problem is the more passionate he gets, the less you'll understand anyway, because of his Italian accent. But I met Daniel 5 years ago when he first came here, and he told me he was going to be doing some dolphin research and he needed boats and a skipper and so on. So over those 5 years I've been involved in some of the bigger trips that he's done, and also helped him out with the smaller trips when he's been researching. So my knowledge comes by osmosis from being out on those trips. So I apologise if I don't have all the scientific facts exactly in my head. But he was unfortunately called away to back to Italy for a family issue, so he wasn't able to be here tonight, and sends his apologies. The snubfin dolphin and the research that Daniel has been involved in is not just on the snubfin, it's on the inshore dolphin species, and this project has been over 5 years in the making and some 1,870 hours of research on the water. And I emphasise that because Xstrata had indicated that they did extensive research on these dolphin in the inshore waters, and I believe they did 4 days of research, which would be around about 30 hours, something along those lines, of which of those 30 hours they would have been really lucky to see maybe half a dozen dolphins. It takes commitment, it takes years of work and effort and patience. And I know from being the skipper on these boats how much patience it takes to actually see these dolphins. So the research project was to determine the distribution of the snubfin dolphin, and you'll see up there on the board that it says formerly thought to be the Irrawaddy dolphin. So has anyone heard of the Irrawaddy dolphin, or are you familiar with that one? You may have heard that name more often than you would have heard the snubfin, except in recent years. And it was 5 years ago that it was determined that it was a different species. The surveys were also to look at the Indo-Pacific humpback dolphin, which is a very shy dolphin also, and we'll have a look at both of those species. The aim was to have a look at DNA and also to identify the comparison of the species. So let's have a look at our snubby. He's the top one up there. He's pretty cute looking and certainly engenders a lot of smiles, especially from little ones. He has the ability to sort of move his head around, which is something that most dolphin can't do. He also doesn't have a beak, and he has a very, very small fin, hence the name. He's very shy, and I don't know why I say he, because there's lots of girls as well. But they hang out in very shallow estuarine waters, up to around about 8 metres deep, and their fish source and their food source comes from that estuary area. So when you think about this proposal, just think about where their food is coming from. And they're very shy, very difficult to see, so really their food source from the estuaries. So we have 2 different species that have been researched. And the research techniques have involved very accurate GPS plotted transects, which is basically a pathway, a zigzag pathway between about the 3-metre contour line and coming out to the 8 to 10 metre contour line and back and forth. Now every single survey is done very accurately to the same pathway, and those surveys then are collecting data, they're collecting counts of the species, and they are collecting identification. Now there's a couple of different types of identification. One of them at the bottom there looks a bit scary, but in actual fact what it is a small dart that's shooting and taking a very tiny skin sample of the dolphin. It's incredibly difficult to get that skin sample, because to get that skin sample you've got to get within 6 to 10 metres or less of the dolphin by boat, and they just don't like to play in that regard, so it's very difficult. And if we can just go back one slide, the photo identification, looking at the different types of the fins, is the way that we identify those species. Now, I just need you to just take a moment and think about in your mind, there have been maybe 90 individual snubfin dolphin identified in the Fitzroy River group. And they're thought to be genetically and geographically isolated. So they don't mix with other groups, they don't migrate to other locations. Okay, we can go ahead. So those little dots there, they're some of the groupings of the Snubfin Dolphin that have been spotted, identified, recorded in the Fitzroy Delta area. And if you just take a moment to look at that map, you'll soon figure out that Balaclava Island, the top of Kittis Island, the Fitzroy and Port Alma areas are all heavily populated with them, and it's going to be heavily impacted. So this dolphin is going to become at risk. It doesn't like